remerciements vont également au gouvernement de la Belgique pour l'invitation de tenir à Bruxelles une session en 2018. Le groupe de travail invite les autres États à suivre cette bonne pratique. Nous souhaitons également exprimer notre gratitude pour le soutien continu, y compris par des contributions volontaires, notamment l'Argentine, la France, le Japon et la République de Corée. Le groupe de travail appelle tous les États à lui fournir un appui accru afin de lui permettre de s'acquitter au mieux de son mandat. Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs les délégués, observateurs, Mesdames et Messieurs, les familles des disparus et les organisations non gouvernementales sont parfois les seules voix dans leur pays qui appellent à la vérité, à la justice et à la réparation au profit des victimes, tout en attirant l'attention sur la situation grave des disparus, tant au niveau national qu'international. Pour cette raison, ils sont souvent victimes de menaces, d'intimidation et de représailles. Nous voulons rendre hommage encore une fois aux familles et proches, aux organisations de la société civile et à toutes les femmes et tous les hommes qui travaillent sans relâche pour les droits des victimes de disparitions forcées, notamment en coopérant avec le groupe de travail. Plutôt que d'être menacés, ils devraient être soutenus et protégés tel que cela est stipulé dans la déclaration de 1992. Permettez-moi de dire qu'on vient il y a quelques minutes d'avoir l'information qu'une personne proche de disparu qui voulait venir rencontrer le groupe de travail qui est en session cette semaine à Genève vient d'être arrêté à l'aéroport de son pays et on ne connaît pas encore son sort. Nous n'avons pas d'informations détaillées, mais le groupe de travail suit de très près cette situation. Cela arrive aussi chaque fois que le groupe de travail tient ses sessions et chaque fois que des victimes et des ONG veulent venir le rencontrer à Genève. Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs les délégués, observateurs, Mesdames et Messieurs, il ne devrait pas y avoir de place pour les disparitions forcées dans le monde. C'est un acte odieux, lâche et inhumain. Nous ne faisons pas assez pour y mettre fin et nous devons faire plus pour mettre fin à tant de souffrances injustifiées. Un acte simple montre que nous sommes déterminés et engagés dans ce sens, celui de ratifier sans délai la Convention internationale pour la protection de toutes les personnes contre les disparitions forcées. À cet égard, nous nous joignons à l'appel récent du Haut Commissaire pour les droits de l'homme pour doubler le nombre de ratifications au cours des 5 prochaines années. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Muchas gracias, señora, por su presentación. Me permite informar que la lista de oradores ha sido cerrada en estos momentos. Invito al señor Pablo de Grief a presentar su informe. Señor, tiene el uso de la palabra.
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure to address the Council today in order to present my yearly thematic report and additionally the findings of the global study which the Human Rights Council called for in Resolution 18/7. Allow me to say a few words about the process leading to the production of the study. Consistent with the terms of the resolution, this is a product of ample consultations with member states, with different UN agencies, and with civil society organizations. The mandate, with the support of OHCHR, organized 5 regional consultations, at least in part, in order to gather inputs for the global study. Those consultations took place as follows: in Cairo in November 2012, in Buenos Aires in December 2012, in Kampala in November 2013, Berlin in May 2014, and Colombo in November 2016. Additionally, several countries responded to a special questionnaire circulated by the mandate. In terms of UN agencies, in addition to OHCHR, UNDP, UNICEF, UN Women, DPKO, DPA, the Executive Office of the Secretary General, as well as different special advisors, participated in and supported different aspects of the production of the study. Civil society organizations from different parts of the world also provided inputs and their valuable insight. I am immensely grateful for all the support. I will not attempt to provide a detailed summary of the results of the study, but merely highlight the following findings. First, there are plenty of accomplishments to celebrate in the field of transitional justice, a term which, as on previous occasions, I will use to refer to the implementation of truth, justice, reparation, and guarantees of non-recurrence after serious violations of human rights and gross violations of international humanitarian law. The first thing to celebrate is that in a fairly short period of time, a normative framework has developed defining state obligations regarding the 4 pillars mentioned. Transitional justice has become, in a 30-year period, one of the policies that countries are expected to implement in the aftermath of violations. This is in itself an accomplishment. Second, a great contribution transitional justice has made consists precisely in the unpacking of the notion of justice into constituent and mutually reinforcing elements: truth, criminal prosecutions, reparations, and guarantees of non-recurrence, in recognition of the fact that criminal justice alone would not be enough to satisfy the justice claims of victims. Third, and this is worth emphasizing, countries in all regions have by now accumulated valuable experiences in the implementation of the relevant measures. Some regions started before others, and there are certainly interesting regional variations, but there is no region of the world which has not experimented with ways of implementing the corresponding policies. The variety of those experiences and the lessons that can be derived from them, I believe, deserve much more recognition and study than they have received. Mr. President, one of the things that deserve highlighting is that this is a field in which there have been significant advances. Some of them are cross-cutting. They pertain to the 4 pillars. These include the various ways in which the 4 measures have contributed to making victims visible, to acquire a place in the public sphere which they lacked before. This is an important dimension of the process of taking seriously the idea that victims are rights holders, but also of successful processes of social integration. Another cross-cutting advance refers to gender sensitivity and inclusion. While there is still much more work that needs to be done, especially at the level of implementation, there is no question that much has been learned about how to make truth, justice, reparations, and guarantees of non-recurrence better at promoting the rights and serving the needs and interests of women. The list of gender-based crimes that are prosecutable has increased. Truth commissions, starting with the Peruvian Truth and Reconciliation Commission, have tended to include a specialized gender unit or to adopt other measures to make sure that gender considerations are streamlined in their work. And reparations programs have become increasingly sensitive, gender sensitive, as demonstrated by some of the measures adopted by Morocco's IER. Finally, great progress has been achieved in fact-finding and documentation, progress that benefits all transitional justice measures. Professional competencies in forensics, for example, as well as in the management of documents, have increased significantly and have become much more widely available. Mr. President, along with these cross-cutting advances, there has been progress in each of the pillars of the mandate. Transitional justice has made important contributions in the domain of prosecutions by offering different ways of coping with amnesties, for example. Various arguments to nullify amnesty laws, either on constitutional grounds or in virtue of their incompatibility with international obligations, have been developed over time. Short of nullification, various approaches have been developed in order to mitigate the worst effects of amnesty laws. This includes arguments concerning the proper implementation of such laws, which can provide immunity from punishments, but not necessarily from investigation. The exclusion of continuous crimes from the ambit of amnesty laws is another sign of progress. Similarly, different legal techniques have been developed in order to overcome prescription and retroactivity issues. Important lessons have been learned in transitional justice also about the articulation of prioritization and prosecutorial strategies that would allow for the more effective and reasonable deployment of often scarce investigatory and prosecutorial resources. In the domain of truth-telling, one should start by mentioning the contributions transitional justice has made to the entrenchment of the right to truth. As important as this has been, however, the contribution to the operationalization of this right through the establishment of truth commissions is a signal advance in the field. Other mechanisms of truth-finding and telling also deserve to be mentioned, including, for instance, international commissions of inquiry, the preservation and access to archives, including those of the different Eastern European secret services, and the crucial work done by historians and other researchers in order to demystify past abuses in Germany and other countries. Regarding reparations, similarly, transitional justice has contributed both to the entrenchment of the right and also to its operationalization, largely through the implementation of large-scale administrative programs capable of dealing efficiently with the claims of thousands, tens of thousands of victims. Important lessons have been learned over the last 30 years, including from very successful programs such as Chile's, among other things about the importance of complexity in the design of programs, that is, of providing a range of benefits that mutually complement one another. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, if it is true that transitional justice can claim to have made important contributions to the victims and to the countries which have implemented the policy earnestly, that is not to say that this is a policy that faces no challenges. The global study also pays attention to this. As all other human rights and justice-related areas, transitional justice work is hampered by three tendencies that ought to be laid to rest. First, the persistent selectivity in the way in which universal legal obligations are implemented. Secondly, the tendency to securitize certain issues and to determine that security concerns under all circumstances trump others, including human rights. And third, the continuing tendency to close civil spaces. It is in the power of member states to shed these tendencies, and this alone would make a contribution to the global search for justice. In addition to these external challenges, as it were, there are some challenges that are internal to the field, but which threaten its success. Here, I will mention just a few, although I list more in the study. First, the field has not been exempt from a tendency to expand the mandate of its measures without little analysis of whether they can bear the additional weight. Much more functional analysis is in order to make sure that measures are designed in a way that is fit for purpose and that this is absolutely necessary. Second, despite the claims that transitional justice is applied in a context-sensitive way, my sense is that there is room for much more sensitivity to context, and in particular to the difference between post-authoritarian and post-conflict settings. This point is important enough to warrant more detailed treatment, which is what I do in my yearly thematic report, to which I will come back shortly. Third, there is in the field a lot of what some economists call isomorphic mimicry, the tendency to replicate institutional forms regardless not just of context, but of the ends sought. It is not obvious, for example, that in all countries that have established a truth commission, This particular instrument was